In the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA096.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
We're recording. This time for real, Taylor.
Yay!
While you spin your yarn, I will spin you a yarn. How does that sound?
I love it. I should put my Fitbit on because, fun fact, if you are taking yarn from the store and making it into yarn balls, it counts as steps on your Fitbit.
That's I guess you're right, and it's also against the spirit of using a Fitbit, but that's
Doesn't
okay.
matter. So I'll be like, how did I walk 9,000 steps today? I'm like, oh, I just sat on the couch and balled yarn.
We are going to congratulate our friends Katie and Alex Schmidt for the birth of their beautiful daughter.
Woohoo!
Wait, was it yesterday or today? I can't tell from this birth certificate. Isn't it supposed to be on the birth certificate?
Why on earth did you have the birth certificate? What are you talking about?
Alex sent it to me.
That doesn't make sense.
The thing with the footprint on it, isn't that the birth certificate? Introducing a precious new arrival. It has a name. Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's Thursday, August 15th.
It's a birth announcement.
It's 7:50 p.m.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yay!
No, it's from Kaiser Permanente.
Yeah, but that's not like a whatever. It's much harder to get a birth certificate. You have to like call the government.
Got it.
You get it in like 3 months.
Anyways, congratulations to our friends. They just had their beautiful baby girl. Everybody's happy and healthy, and man, what a time to be alive. We're definitely getting up there. Everybody has kids except me. So
my daughter's almost 10, so here we are.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
I know.
Wow.
Let me introduce us, and I'm going to say something else about our friends.
All right. This is gonna hopefully go well. Let's hear it.
Welcome to Doomed to Fail, the podcast where we bring you history's most notorious disasters and epic failures twice a week, every week. Today is Wednesday. I am Taylor. We are joined by Fars, as always. And I have decided to do one of the pettiest things I've done in a while, which is to copy and paste the followers of our podcast on Instagram and copy and paste my followers on Instagram and figure out which one of my dumbass friends are not following us.
Did you find out?
No, I'm still cleaning up my spreadsheet. I have our podcast followers, and then I'm going to add my followers and then get rid of the duplicates, I think is what I'm going to do, and then I'll be able to see who is not.
How are you doing that? Will you just you can export your own followers?
No, I literally spent like 5 minutes scrolling all the way down so I can copy and paste them.
Taylor, you're like, man, like you could have ran the world.
I got annoyed, so I was like, "Come on, what the hell?" All you have to do is follow me. You don't have to listen. But like, if you're my friend, you should like support me. And I have like a lot of friends who I support constantly, and I just feel like I don't get the same support from them. It's not you, and it's not you if you're listening, but it's you if you're listening to this in a year because you finally decided to catch up.
You know what's funny is you reminded me that there's somebody that we both know who I have gone above and beyond to try and be supportive of the things that they've chosen to do in their careers. And at every opportunity, if I ever try to call them or text them or reach out to them for any help whatsoever, just like guide me in a direction here, nothing. Crickets.
Huh.
And it just reminds me.
Can you just chat me with that person's name in the chat here?
We'll go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take it anymore.
I'm not gonna take it anymore. Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Throughout every stupid, dumbass career move that this guy made,
yes.
I was there to be like, hey, I don't think that's the right track, but I support you. Tell me who you need intros to. Tell me what you need. I call him up, was like, hey, I heard you're at this one organization. Maybe we can collaborate. Not even a call back.
Yeah.
Literally the only person that I have stayed in touch with in the past like 10 years that just literally will not call me back over anything.
Yeah.
Anyways, so dumb. So yeah, hope. Well, let me know how that goes because then I can do the same thing.
Yeah. I can probably get your followers, or I can put it on my spreadsheet.
I'm sure. Well, so here's the thing. One thing to note, Taylor, is I did do outreach to every single one of my followers, but that was like when we first started. And
I emailed everyone I know, and still like 4 people signed up for our email.
No, I know.
I'm like,
Well,
you
yeah.
can sign up for my email and you can sign up for my email blast and you can make a filter to filter it out of your inbox and straight to trash. I don't care. Just
Well,
like,
what I'm saying is like you might just need to catch people at the right time and the right day and like, you know
well,
what I mean?
that's why I'm gonna start calling them out personally.
God, you guys got it coming.
You have it going. Okay.
So today's my day to share my story. And I did this is going to be part two of my series on the PayPal Mafia. So the first part had to do with the origin story of PayPal. And today we're going to go into the business windfall that followed the PayPal Mafia, as well as calling out some of the more notable members of the group. Because I want to kind of end this with part three being more of like the social impact of what's going on with what these
Hmm.
folks have contributed, which is a lot because we hear about it all the time now. It's important to kind of put that within the context and framework of who these people are and so on and so forth. I do have like a kind of a narrative on this because I'm like this sounds really stupid, and you should tell me that it's stupid, but like I'm starting to realize like how vastly different billionaires are than the rest of us. Like
Yeah.
like
I think that's a good point. And I've been thinking about what you said last time, where you're like, there's this like, I need to innovate at this speed, and that is the thing that I care about the most.
yeah, I think I'm iterating that stance a
Okay.
little bit. Yeah. So long story short is I get really excited and I text Taylor constantly when I think that we're plugged into the zeitgeist. Like we caught the wave of something, you know, when it was like gonna happen and we didn't realize. So the Murdoch episode we did, for example, we didn't know Netflix was producing a series about this and it was gonna blow up,
Hmm.
become super popular. We just did the episode and then like a month later they released a series and then like a few days after that he gets like convicted. Like we didn't know any of that was gonna happen. It just happened. I texted Taylor because the Daily did an episode where they touched on somebody referred to in the last episode having to do with Andreessen Horowitz, which is the A16Z VC capital firm out of Silicon Valley. And I texted Taylor again yesterday because I saw that Joe Rogan's podcast, he interviewed Peter Thiel, who is considered like the Don or whatever, like the
Hmm.
main guy of the PayPal Mafia. I was like, Taylor, I think we're onto something. Like there's gotta be a reason why this stuff is hitting at the exact same time.
Well, it is because, I mean, it's because they're very involved in politics and it's very, I think maybe like you were saying, maybe you'll get to, but I think it's very interesting that like the social part is not something that they seem to care about. Peter Thiel, as an example, as a gay man who doesn't care that gay rights may be taken away.
So here's what part of what I mentioned about my evolving view of like what it's like to be a billionaire was actually listening to that episode.
Hmm.
And obviously Joe Rogan's worth like hundreds of millions of dollars. Peter
Yeah.
Thiel's worth like multiples of billions. And
Hmm.
when you hear them like talking, you're like, oh, their brains are not they're not
Right.
on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Like there's orders to this thing and like they are not even close. And I'll be honest, I'm just going to admit to the entire audience here, I'm not close to being a 100 millionaire, so I can't even think in 100 millionaire terms, much less in multiple billionaire terms. So like,
No.
anyways, that was kind of like a little bit of a
Have
learning
you,
experience for me.
did you watch Succession?
No, I never got into that.
Um, it's super good, but there's a part where that my husband was talking about recently where like they're talking they're like having $5 million is like the stupidest amount of money to have because you can't retire, but you can't um like but you still have more money than like a lot of other people that you know. And they called it this is terrible, but they called it it's like being the tallest dwarf.
Yeah,
That you're like, well, it's not enough to like, I don't know, you know. And I am not, I have like $7, so like, it's crazy.
I have like $17,
Yeah.
so we're
I
not
mean,
close to this level.
I'm very I'm, absolutely fine and doing great, but not a millionaire.
No, no, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just it actually it was so. Oh, man, okay, I'll get into that later. Like remind me if you care to go back to like my feedback on the Joe Rogan interviewing Peter Thiel episode because there was a lot of things I pulled out of that. I was like, okay, that's a talking point right there. Anyways, we can come
Yeah,
back to it if we
yeah,
want to. So what I want to get into is kind of like what this group of individuals, what the option of it was, and why they contributed in a way that nobody else contributed to technology and society and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So again, the ending of the last story was PayPal being sold to eBay. Again, the PayPal was sold for about $1.5 billion, which, yes, it is a ton of money, but in total, the members of the PayPal mafia walked away with somewhere around 350 million in total. And that ranges from Elon Musk, who took the vast majority of that. He received about 165 million, and the rest kind of shared what was left over.
Hmm.
Um, Not putting down that like that's a ton of money, but currently the five richest members of the PayPal mafia have a combined net worth of $270 billion.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at that time, I feel like the word $1 billion didn't enter our like mainstream until the past like I don't know 5 or 10 years.
I mean, yeah, so Bill Gates held the mantle forever. Then we all
Yeah.
knew who Bill Gates was. Then, Warren Buffett. And then all of a sudden, like, I think America had like a glut of billionaires that happened in the past like 20 years that was just like kind
Hmm.
of unprecedented in terms of how many there was. So today, again, the top five richest members, their combined wealth is about $270 billion. Um, Again, 250 billion of that is really just Elon Musk. So let's drop him from the equation because he sways it so dramatically.
Hmm.
It means that the remaining members made about 185 million from the original sale, but still have a net worth of about $20 billion. That means that if you were to exclude Musk, this group 108x'd their money. If you include Musk, it means that they 771x their money over a 20-year period of time.
Wow.
So that's a big deal because by comparison, the US gross domestic product, the size of the US economy as a whole, grew 2.27x in 20 years over the preceding 20 years. So that gives you a scale of the magnitude of what these guys did. So how did they end up doing it? And part of this is going to be a little bit speculation, which I'm going to rely on you to help me with, Taylor. The other
Hmm.
part is going to be quantifiable. So I'm going to start with the quantifiable bit for a minute. So very standard finance stuff. Money tends to grow money.
Hmm.
So, for example, if you put $1 million in a high yield savings account, you can safely assume that you'll earn about $40,000 to $50,000 a year just on interest without touching the $1 million.
Hmm.
Or if you want to be riskier, you can put that money in an index fund and you'll make about $70,000 to $100,000 off your $1 million, give or take. If you want to be even riskier, you put that money in a venture capital fund with a VC firm who will combine similar investments and then dish them out to tech companies to fuel growth in the hopes of either hitting profitability, acquisition, or an IPO.
Hmm.
If you're not super rich with like a ton of liquid capital, going the VC route sounds like a total white knuckle experience. You have to put this money in a pool knowing with certainty the vast majority of businesses that fund is funding are going to go nowhere. But
Hmm.
maybe one of them is going to hit big. Maybe.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they call this the Babe Ruth effect. It is the trade-off between frequency versus magnitude, and it's named such because Babe Ruth was known to swing for the fences, and most of the time he wouldn't hit the ball. When he did make contact, he would just knock it totally out of the park.
Right. He only hit home runs, but he didn't always hit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Some examples of this are when Facebook, for example, bought WhatsApp, which was a Sequoia Capital investment bank backed company. Sequoia invested $60 million in WhatsApp. When Facebook bought it, they valued it at $22 billion, which means that Sequoia's interest in the business earned them $3 billion or 50x their investment, which is pretty good. That's like where you're
Pretty
shooting
good.
for if you're a VC firm. So
Yeah.
that was the biggest investment payoff in VC history. But then you look at the members of the PayPal mafia and what they have done, and you start to see how they are able to consistently outperform everybody else over and over and
Hmm.
over again. So we'll start with the biggest example, which is Facebook. So again, Peter Thiel, considered kind of the dawn of the PayPal mafia, founder of Confinity and the second CEO of PayPal after Elon Musk was unceremoniously booted from the role. He was the very first outside investor in Facebook. So outside of what like the individual founders put in, he's the first investment capital that came into the business. This is insane to me. He spent $500,000 of his own money in 2004 for 10% ownership in the business.
Wow.
10%. I think Facebook's probably worth $1 trillion right now. I don't even
Oh
know
my
what they're
God.
worth.
Yeah.
So Facebook launched in February of 2004. Around summer of that same year, Thiel became that first non-founder investor in the business and also introduced Mark Zuckerberg to more capital opportunities through his network by introducing him to another PayPal millionaire, Reid Hoffman, who was COO of PayPal at the time it was sold to eBay. In total, off about $500,000 for Thiel, he made $1 billion off that initial investment. Hoffman invested 27 million and he made about 300 million, so he invested a little bit later. But then again, Hoffman wasn't just a passive investor. He had founded a company called LinkedIn in 2002 right after exiting PayPal. His initial investors were once again Peter Thiel and then David Sachs, who was PayPal's head of product, and a guy named Jeremy Stoppelman, who was PayPal's VP of engineering.
Wow.
Those were the initial investors. They would have fueled the growth. LinkedIn would be sold to Microsoft in 2016 for $26 billion.
Jesus.
So that made Hoffman a multi-billionaire. Uh, who's this David Sachs I just mentioned? He went on to found Yammer, which Thiel and Hoffman also funded and was also acquired by Facebook for 1.2 or Microsoft for $1.2 billion, which again provided another couple $100 million off their investment.
Wow.
It's just hit after hit. It's like the Jackson 5. Like it's just
Well, what were they? Were there other things in the middle of that, like you were saying, that like didn't hit?
well, so these guys invested in a lot of companies, but the companies that they
Hmm.
invested in themselves together, where they themselves were the founders and the creators of it, no, they
Hmm.
hit. They all hit.
Hmm.
The only one that had like a little bit of trouble is actually the next company, which was Yelp. So
Hmm.
David Sachs was a lead investor in Yelp. Yelp had a whole host of issues with monetization, scaling, whatever. It was a whole separate nightmare. But like we all know what Yelp is now, it's never going to go anywhere. And like we can thank in large part David Sachs for funding that growth and making Yelp an actual viable business as of today.
Hmm.
Then we have YouTube, which was founded by three PayPal alum who they weren't originally part of the mafia because they weren't founders; they were just early engineers. But now they're
Hmm.
kind of considered a part of that collective, and they received a ton of support from the PayPal mafia, the original founders themselves, enough to raise 11.5 million in venture capital, all for a 1.6 billion-dollar exit sale to Google, which now we have YouTube, the most ubiquitous video sharing platform in the entire world.
Wow. And we have a YouTube channel. You can search Doomed to Fail podcast on YouTube.
And we also
And
publish very fun vintage videos of
and
a
listen,
random family.
yep, and all of our episodes are there as well.
So then we get to the 800-pound gorilla in the room, Elon Musk. So how's he kind of interwoven and interconnected in all this? And a lot of this, like, I think I kind of knew, but I relearned the vast majority of it researching this.
Hmm.
So the story really begins with SpaceX because when he was basically fired from being the CEO of PayPal, he founded SpaceX.
Hmm.
So it was noted that he found SpaceX to decrease the cost of space travel. I don't totally get why he cared about this mission or this cause as a mission. I read some vague statement that he really wanted to help build greenhouses to support terraforming in Mars or something. Like I have no idea why this was. I didn't find enough topic on this of like why this was something he cared so deeply about. But
He just really liked the movie Biodome.
I mean, who doesn't? Pauly Shore's like it was the best Pauly Shore
Do you
vehicle that
remember
we
how
had.
cool those were in that time? I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, yeah.
Maybe he just like really liked those.
Son-in-law was pretty good too.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think about the lettuce sandwich and son-in-law like once a week. It's like just lettuce on like a piece of bread, and I just like love it, and I wish they would make it for me.
We'll work. I'll call one and see if we can hook you up.
Thank you.
Um, so between 2006 and 2008, SpaceX had dumped its considerable investment resources into perfecting the Falcon project rockets. And on three occasions, those launches failed, meaning the rockets just kind of exploded. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Well, not on a limb. I'm just going to go ahead and admit that I don't know a lot about rocket science,
That's
but
fair.
it sounds like it's really tough to nail this stuff, both
It
in
does,
like
yeah.
science resources and in money.
Hmm.
Is that fair?
That's fair. I wonder why, I guess, do you know why? Like, is he like the government's not doing it fast enough?
I don't know. It was something
Like,
about how he thinks
yeah.
it was something about how he thinks that it can be done more efficiently and effectively and cost effectively and all that stuff. Like that's kind of
Hmm.
what I sense. But also there's an element of this again, like what I was telling you earlier, like there's something that these guys are plugged into that's like different than our understanding of it. Like, I don't think that a guy like this just doesn't have a contact at NASA that he calls who can tell him like, here's what this would be worth, here's how much it costs, here what we can. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's like some they're plugged into things that are different and give them a lot more visibility and insight into like the landscape than I think you can glean from just like researching the way we
Right.
research.
Totally.
So apparently, so the company was on the verge of bankruptcy after these three failed attempts. Their last attempt was only possible because, again, Peter Thiel came to the rescue with investment in the business. They kept it afloat long enough to perform their fourth successful launch, which resulted in a federal contract that would save the business and now possibly the lives of two astronauts who are stranded in space
Yeah,
thanks to Boeing.
they're still there.
They're still there. They're still there. And it sounds like they're not coming back until February.
I mean, like maybe they're happy. I mean, they're probably making the best of it, but it's still.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know this, but they actually been this. They're like real astronauts. They've been to the space station many times. So like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
might be
yeah.
like their normal thing. So,
Yeah. I
anyways,
mean, maybe they wanted to stay longer and they like did something weird. Weird.
so by this point, when we get to the launch of the Falcon 4, which was the first successful launch they did, right when they got their contract from the government,
Hmm.
it was documented that the business SpaceX had about 1 week's worth of operating cash.
Wow.
So one thing I read was that when he got the call saying that he got the government contract, Elon Musk told the guy who called him, "I love you." so,
Fair.
so it was he was in a really tough bind, and this is a part where like stories kind of converge, and I don't actually understand how anybody could go through this, but we turn our attention to Tesla, which again, contrary to popular belief, Musk did not found Tesla. Tesla was
I mean,
founded by two guys named one named Martin Eberhard and a guy named Mark Tarpenning, who founded the business in 2003. Musk joined it in 2004 as the single largest shareholder with $6 million in investment, which resulted in him after a little bit of like board move arounds and whatever, just corporate BS, him being installed as a CEO. So the business spent the next few years working on its battery tech, optimizing supply chains, all this in anticipation of launching the Tesla Roadster in 2008. Despite their best efforts, they had real difficulty bringing the flagship vehicle to market and experienced significant delays and cost overruns on the project. So in 2008, Musk's roughly $180 million fortune was basically down to zero. He had personally put his last $70 million into Tesla that year and $100 million total in SpaceX before the successful launch of Falcon 4. This is all in 2008. What was the other thing that was going on in 2008 in the US?
recession.
The Great Recession. GM and Chrysler both filed bankruptcy. So
Hmm.
nobody was trying to buy some random car with a new technology battery tech that nobody even understood what it was. Nobody. It was a horrible, horrible moment to be doing this. What ultimately saved Tesla was that Chrysler was trying to invest in electric battery technology or electric battery. They're trying to invest in electric car battery technology, and they
Hmm.
infused Tesla with a $40 million capital grant swap for equity. And that's basically what saved the business long enough for them to get the Roadster to market, which was like on the
Hmm.
downswing of the Great Recession. And when they were able to kind of sustain themselves long enough to kind of burst out with the Model S and so on and so forth. So what I didn't bring up was that he also put his last $10 million in Solar City to try and make solar energy accessible for like households and stuff. So
Wow.
what I read is that at this point, he literally had no money. It is said that he was borrowing money from his family and friends to just pay his living expenses and buy food. So as of today, that $180 million in proceeds that he made off the sale of PayPal, they're responsible based across the market caps of Tesla, SpaceX, and Solar City, which is now part of Tesla, about $1 trillion in market cap and about $250,000 in employment across the employee network for those organizations. So again, all of it kind of flowing from this one. I mean, it's interesting because Peter Thiel is not even close to the richest person, and he's like the one central cog that made all of this like
Hmm.
possible. So I was kind of going into speculation on like what makes this group so unique, how they keep supporting each other, reinvesting in each other, and why their businesses that they personally found keep hitting one after the other. And it really, Taylor, took me back to when we were early employees of our last company.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, that company was backed by some of those powerful people in Silicon Valley, and we experienced like a ton of growth in those early years. I think you and I joined when the business was somewhere around 300 customers, and I mean, by the time I left, we were in the tens of thousands. So
Really?
yeah, so like we were in like
Wow.
a hyper growth phase, but we were
Mm-hmm.
also like super close to each other, right? Like we worked weekends, we spent free time together, we stayed late at the office, we had ping pong tournaments, like we did a lot of stuff together,
Mm-hmm.
and I think like that's kind of what again, like the people that I talk to now that have helped me throughout my career since then, it's just the same people. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I said with the person I just told you about. Like
Mm-hmm.
anybody who wants a favor from me, like they can call me and get it, and vice versa. And I think that that's kind of what this kind of what how this evolved into what it evolved into. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
different scales. If nobody's gonna call me and ask me for $100 million, but like they'll call me and ask me for like an introduction or a favor or something. Like that's just
Yeah.
different. But um, that's my theory.
That makes sense. I mean, if you can like help the people who helped you and like help each other and you have the means to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's my story. Wow, mine is like super short today, but like that's kind of the story. I left off a lot of. There's so many different examples of this, and I didn't think it was. I could have done like 20 more of these, but I thought like the biggest names I kind of wanted to throw out there. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm going to leave it.
Okay, cool. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that like similar to the money compounds, so do the connections, you know?
So
And you're
true. Yeah,
you
it's a
can be
good
like,
point.
oh yeah, I know this person. Like if I'm just like a person who has an idea, like for a podcast, and I don't know anyone famous in the podcasting world, it's gonna be hard to get it up and popular.
You know what's interesting about the Facebook example? What happened was that Sean Parker, who was president of Facebook, he knew through the grapevine Reid Hoffman. Reid
Hmm.
Hoffman, before he joined PayPal as a COO, had started a company called SocialNet,
Hmm.
which is what he flipped into LinkedIn later on. But when Sean Parker came to him, he was like, listen, I'm trying to get this other thing off the ground, and it's kind of in the same vein of what you're trying to do.
Hmm.
I think it'll be a weird conflict of interest if I was your lead investor. He was investor later on. He invested $27 million later on. But before that, he was like, I don't want to seem like I'm being shady. So talk to my buddy Peter Thiel.
How did he know those people?
I mean, I would assume he created Napster. Like, don't you just kind of know everyone when
Oh,
you
right, I forgot about that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's the story for this round. The next one's going to go into more of like the social side of the PayPal mafia, the controversies and kind of things that came out of it since then.
Hmm.
But I've been finding it really really interesting, like just learning more about this. There's a book that just came out which I called On the Edge by Nate Silver, and
You bought a book?
yeah, it's a real one. Look, it's
Oh
real.
my God, I
There's
can't believe this. I'm
words in it. You see the words?
so proud of you.
And
Do you have a bookshelf? You can put it on a bookshelf?
I was gonna put it like right here, just sitting right here. But one thing he does is he actually interviews Peter Thiel, and he
Hmm.
discusses it again on the Ezra Klein show about his experience, because he didn't talk about this in the book, but he talks about this when he's talking to Ezra Klein, where he's like, he also is just like, man, talking to these people, I'm trying to understand how they see humanity, how they see themselves in
Hmm.
humanity, how they look at timelines, their contributions, and it's not like necessarily a God thing of like I'm chosen. It's more of like a I have the ability and therefore the responsibility to do X, Y, and Z. And like rightly or wrongly, right? Like
Hmm.
it's not that you're gonna agree with everything that these guys do. Obviously, you don't agree with a lot of it, but like it's just a different prerogative. It just operates on a
Yeah.
very different prerogative and operates on like a humanitarian timeline and a humanitarian perspective as opposed to like that's why I found that interview with Joe Rogan so funny, because obviously like goes into like this side quest of like drugs and psilocybins and like
Hmm.
whatever, and like you can almost like hear Peter Thiel being what like what do you he's like it's like I'm trying to like clone my
Save
brain.
humanity.
I'm trying to clone my brain and
Yeah,
install it into like a 17-year-old version of my body. Like, what are you? Who gives a shit about like your? Again, it's
that's
just
really
such a
funny.
different scale of like what these folks think about, which is so interesting.
Yeah.
But we'll get there, Taylor. I mean, we won't. We probably won't, but like whatever. We'll be happy.
Well, I feel like then it's something that they are saying that is interesting that like time matters in a different way. And I also think time matters in a different way. You don't have to worry about like regular people shit, like keeping your house clean, you
Yeah,
know?
like if you were worth that many billions of dollars, like
Yeah.
you're I would assume that the thing you would be focused on first and foremost is how to increase your longevity
Yeah.
and investing in technology. I didn't tell you this, but like there was one time I went to actually, this guy might have been part of the PayPal Mafia. I can't remember exactly. I saw his name pop up somewhere. But anyways, he's one of these billionaire guys, and I was gonna go have a lunch with him, and so I had this lunch with him, and we were talking about like the business and what we do and everything, and how he framed it for me was like, dude, I'm investing in businesses that can get contracts with DARPA. Like, I'm not interested in consumer BS. Like things that you're
Right.
selling is like it's cute, it's cool, it's fun, it's cute. Keep doing your cute thing.
Right.
I'm I'm trying to like create like magnetic waves of energy that could go to space.
Like
Like, it's like
rocket science shit that you don't understand.
yeah, I was like, I'll just have my salad and leave. What am I doing here?
What am I doing here?
But all
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, it's not that
Wild.
anybody's better or worse than anybody else. It's just like that's not what the lesson here. It's more of like just like I'm trying to get like an understanding of like who these people are, why they are the way they are, and like there's got to be lessons within that, right? Like there's got to be something cool about like being able to think that long tail. Like, I can't think that long tail. I'm literally thinking about like, what should I get for dinner? Like you know, like I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
break outside of
Totally.
my own paradigm. It'll be nice to.
I think it also speaks to like a historical thing of like a king having a war and not caring about the immediate consequences, you know,
Yeah,
and being like, the consequences are that my thing will be here for generations,
yeah.
like that's the thing that I care about. If in the meantime I destroy lives and things and blah blah blah, like that doesn't really matter to me, and I don't even give it a thought, you know?
Maybe that one thing he said on the podcast I was just listening to was he was dissecting why humans are the way they are, and I'm like that's a really fascinating way to look at it. He was like yeah, we're just copycats. Like our brains were literally designed to just copy other people. Like that's all we do is
Hmm.
we just mimic what's around us. That's what we call it, aping. We're gonna ape someone. Is like we're just gonna like do what they do. Like if a kid has a blue ball, the other kid's gonna want a blue ball. Like it's just how
Hmm.
we operate. And if you have a lot of money, I want a lot of money. Like it's a very interesting way to perceive it. But anyways, that was also like a funny podcast. I wouldn't listen to it because I take the subject matter that seriously. Because again, Joe Rogan's going into like a weird like he's like talking about doing mushrooms and stuff. It's like, dude, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
This is so interesting.
All of that plus all the steroids, that can't be good for him.
Also, he would like there was something that I found really fun about that though was that he would just like he came up with theories about Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Gates,
Uh-huh.
like Peter Thiel did,
Uh-huh.
and it totally brought back the fact that PayPal Mafia guys like seemed to really dislike the Microsoft guys. So apparently Bill Gates shorted Tesla like a ton, which like caused like the stock to crash at a really critical point. Which Elon Musk like called them out on it, and like it was a huge media firestorm for a while. And
Hmm.
then Peter Thiel's on this podcast talking about how close Gates was to Epstein. I was like, oh dude, you should like you're starting like a billionaire fight here. It's like a
Yeah.
it's gotta be
Totally.
it's really fun to do that. But anyways, so that's
100%.
my episode. That's all I got for now. And then next week we're gonna join you with controversies of the group. So TBD.
Cool.
What do you have to say, Taylor?
No, it's interesting. I like it. It is like it's hard to see some of the stuff that like these guys do and be like, what are you doing? But like, you're right that they just are totally different. Like they just have a totally different mindset. Like
Yeah,
I can't even imagine having that like as a, as like an option. Like, what would you do?
that'd be nice
Yeah.
or terrible. I don't know.
Right? I don't know. I mean, I definitely think that money can buy happiness. So, but I do think at some point it might make you crazy. I don't know.
I mean, buying like yeah, the
Yeah,
longevity thing would make me pretty happy, I think, knowing that like I could have the resources to just like not be subject to time. That'd be kind of cool.
I'd really just like to not have to worry about dinner. I'd like someone else to make dinner every fucking day and like make my bed. Like I feel like there's so much I could do if I didn't have to like think about food.
Good point. I'm literally thinking about dinner right now.
Right? And like if you could just like, go outside and dinner was like made for you and you'd be like, thank you.
So
Like
nice.
maybe so I went to this like 3-day women's retreat in January and the food was made for us and it was just incredible. They're like, okay, dinner's at 6 and you get there and dinner's there. You're like, thank you so much. You didn't ask me what I wanted. I don't give a shit. Just make me something. You know what I mean? Like
So nice.
so nice. Yeah.
One day, Taylor. Sweet. Well, anything you want to read off?
I have one fun thing. My friend Seamus from New York, he sent me a message because he had said something on Instagram about Jesse Owens, a little bit more Olympic stuff, but his like great grandfather, I think, was actually one of the track coaches in the 1936 Olympics.
No way.
And there was something that happened where they wanted Jesse Owens, like either in the trial or in the medal race to do like one race after the other, which would have been really hard because it was like he just did one thing, they wanted him to immediately do another one. So his grandfather found a thing in the rules where you could consult with your coach for any amount of time. So he wasn't like the head coach, but he was like one of the coaches. So he talked to Jesse Owens for like a half hour about nothing, and he got to like rest and then do his next thing,
That's pretty
which is cool.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. You have cool friends.
I do. It's a fun
Um,
story.
well, thank you for writing in, Seamus. And that's a really cool name too.
It is. It's cool. It's like hard to say if you look at it spelled, but then once you say it, you're like, it's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
You know?
Seamus.
Yeah,
Right.
like Seamus and like Sinead are like really hard to like
Right.
figure out, but like once you figure it out, you're like, oh, it's such a lovely name.
Sydney had.
Denied.
Um, anyways, yeah, please write to us, doomtofailpod@gmail.com, on the socials at doomtofail. Please follow us if you're not following us. Taylor will be really happy, or she will accost you. We don't know which.
I will find you. I will figure out how to make a pivot table
She
on the spreadsheet that I'm making, and I will
she's
find out if you are my friend and not following me.
coming for you. Cool. Anything else, Taylor?
That's it. No, thank you so much, Fars. Thanks,
Thank you.
friends.
We'll go ahead and cut off. Bye, all.